Welcome to Beyond Ocean and Maine, MCM's news magazine program. I'm Robert Goitis.
And I'm Shayla Tran.
After being the president and CEO of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce for 20 years, Peter Foreman has decided to retire.
Peter sat down with us to discuss his contributions to the area and how much the chamber has changed.
20 years is a long time for any CEO at a nonprofit. You know, the time spans of leadership in organizations are shortening, and 20 years is a long time. Now, my predecessor did do 27 years, so I'm not sticking it out as long as he did. But there are a number of reasons. A part of it is we are finishing a long-term 10-year strategic plan. It was tied in with a 10-year contract, and about 3 years ago, I just thought this was the right time and not extend the contract. You know, when you get involved in an organization that's as dynamic as a chamber with so many great people as our members and our leadership, one project leads to another. You're always doing something, and you can always find a reason to keep staying. And really, I think a challenge for most organizational leaders isn't to find the reason to keep staying. It's to know that you should lead and turn it over. I had been in government for 20 years in various elected and appointed positions, so I had a pretty deep background in politics and public policy. Had been in the private sector for a couple of years, and my predecessor was resigning, and I had a few people from the board reach out to me. This chamber had always had a history of being involved in the community and involved in public affairs, and some reached out to me, and I thought intriguing, it would be interesting, and the idea of helping build up a community, or build up the chamber as a community organization in an area I've lived all my life was pretty intriguing. Then I got involved in the national boards and some national projects around chambers and business and economic development, and it just became more interesting. If I were to really dive down and think about how the chamber has changed, what I'd probably find is how businesses have changed and how the region has changed. And as an example of that, so many of our businesses have merged. You know, the last 20 years has been a tremendous period of mergers and consolidations, and we've seen a lot of movement of small local companies that grow, get to some capacity, and then sell to national companies that may not be as involved in the area. So for chambers of commerce, I think the old model would be that if you walked downtown, you would see that the biggest funders and backers of a chamber were in the biggest buildings in the town. That's different now. If it's the biggest building in a town or a city, it may be owned by a company outside the area that just is occupying space, and the people who care the most about the area may be working out of their homes. So trying to connect the passion of entrepreneurs and business leaders with the resources of larger companies is a new challenge for chambers of commerce that's really been developing over the last 25 years. I think some of the major contributions I've probably made here are reading the market, understanding where the chamber industry was nationally, helping reposition how the chamber is structured, where we get our funding, what our mission is, a lot more collaboration with other organizations, particularly building up a network of local affiliated chambers. So I think it's the structural model and the strategic planning for where the suburban region is. I think those are probably my biggest contributions. I'd probably balk at saying they're my accomplishments, because it is all about collaboration. We've had hundreds of volunteer leaders over the 20 years, probably thousands, who have come and gone in some way and touched the chamber. They help drive it. The staff helps drive it. So I've lent some direction. I've done some crystal balling of where trends are. So I've made those contributions, but I'd pull back from calling them accomplishments. We've had great staff. They're really dedicated to the cause and to the members. They're very generous with how they help. Watching the generosity of volunteers, and think of the model that we have. People write a check to us for the privilege of coming in and volunteering their talent and time to help other members. That's an incredible thing to watch. Watching how a small business got a leg up, watching how a professional, an employee of a member company built up leadership skills, advanced their own careers, that's really satisfying. Watching how we might help a business get started or locate here, and then looking at the parking lot and seeing that indirectly we help create some economic opportunity and some jobs for people is great. Looking at how strong our communities are and the great quality of life, and knowing that we didn't invent it, but we've helped continue it and expand that quality of life for people, that's pretty satisfying. I think I'll certainly miss the staff. We've had pretty much the same staff through COVID and here. Great group of people, a tightly knit group. I'll miss seeing some of the progress on projects that we've started. I think there's a lot of growth coming to the South Shore. I think that's going to change the nature of businesses in the economy here. I think it's going to change and contribute to our communities, and to be able to do more of that work will be missed. But I think to really be successful and grow, it does take some new perspective and new energy to come in and do that. So I'll be happy to watch somebody else do it from a distance. I think we've made a difference in a lot of individual projects in communities, whether that's a housing proposal, whether it's some effort working with town officials, trying to move their town forward and looking for business support on it. The nature of organizations has changed a lot, particularly since COVID. I think the new direction most successful organizations have to go with isn't owning everything and doing everything themselves, but figuring out how you collaborate. So I think I've helped contribute to some of those projects. Some of them we can point to and talk about. Others we've done pretty quietly, and that's okay. So if we were to take all the credit, we wouldn't get as much done.
The MHS Ballfield Revitalization Fund was created to provide the necessary funds to improve and modify the ball fields surrounding Marshfield High School.
MCM talked with the fund's organizers and some Marshfield High School alumni about the importance of renovating the fields.
The MHS Ballfields Committee is a group that has formed because we recognize that there's areas of opportunity at our ball fields at Marshfield High School. These are town ball fields that were built in 2013 and over time and over a lot of use need our attention. So we've heard a lot of noise about these fields in the past years, and a group of us decided to take action and take charge and get some things done for the ball fields so that they can be improved. So there's been a lot of noise around these ball fields, and once you start playing on it, you really experience it firsthand and you see the opportunities. The field itself looks great from the street, but when you're playing on it, you start to realize the backstop is set back way too far from home plate. The dugouts are set low on the field, and they're also set back around 60 feet from the baseline. The field has no drainage, so the field is often closed because the infield is flooded and the dugouts are flooded. And these are all areas that we're looking to fix for the town, for the community, and for the baseball program.
To me, this is about kind of bringing pride to the field. Like, I played baseball my whole life, I'm biased. And when you jump on the varsity baseball field, you want to feel this sense of pride. This game is hard. We want these kids to come out here and play this game and be proud of the field that they're on. Not having other teams and other coaches kind of look at it wondering what's wrong with it. And I think that sort of started it. To me, there's nothing worse than waking up on a beautiful Tuesday morning in the spring, and you still can't play baseball because it rained the night before. And that happens over and over again on this baseball field. And when I was a young kid playing, like that was the worst phone call I ever got. The game was canceled. And it was a beautiful day, you know, so that's something we're trying to fix here. So these kids can come out here, be excited to play baseball, when it's a nice day to be able to enjoy their field and know that they can play the game that day.
I dream of a field that kids can really play on in April. I feel like when I was in school, we had a lot of days where we'd have cancellations and we'd have to go to Daniel Webster or go to a different field just to play baseball. And I feel like kids really had the chance to have a field that they'd be able to play on and not have to worry about finding a ride somewhere else and just kind of dialing in on one place. It would be super beneficial to them.
And I think it's a really awesome movement, and it is a really awesome movement that they're changing the field and trying to make it better for the younger generation, and it would honestly probably make kids less likely to quit baseball growing up, and it would completely change the type of athletes that are probably changing sports or quitting baseball to go to other sports. And I think the better the field and the better the care for the game is at Marshfield would completely change the program.
Home plate pride to me, I've been around Marshfield baseball for a long time, even growing up, and having something growing up like the rec fields even that everyone went to on Friday nights and you had a game under the lights, I feel like was kind of peak baseball for a lot of kids. And after you get to high school, you kind of come here and it's not exactly what you think it's going to be just because the fields aren't up to what you really think a high school standard is. You go to places like Plymouth South, Plymouth North, they have super nice turf fields that they always get to play at, and they're never canceling games. They get to play all their games. They don't have to go into May and play back-to-back-to-back games every week for 4 or 5 weeks.
I mean, baseball's taught me a lot. I mean, it's teamwork, leadership, everything. How to, especially I think working with a team is what everything. I mean, I'm still playing baseball to this day. I play college baseball at Anna Maria, and I'm still learning the life skills and everyday skills from it. Yeah. Playing for the Rams felt like a big family. I mean, I loved my teammates, coaches. We had the fans every day. It was a lot of fun.
I mean, I played baseball my entire life. I'm playing in college now, and I think this program. I think growing up, I loved baseball, and I loved playing it. And I just thought here, it could have, like playing at this field, it could have been better. And I think it starts with the field. I think having a nice field and taking care of the field has it could go a long way.
People should support this project because kids love playing baseball, and this field is not the best, and they can definitely do much better. And you want to see kids that actually want to go out and play baseball on this field or a new field.
I can't wait to see this field being done properly, you know, being done right and making it more functional. I moved here 13 years ago, and the high school was currently being built and that project was started. When it was done, I remember the sense of pride you had in your town to have a new, modernized high school. Football field is beautiful. They redid the field. Softball is a beautiful all-turf field, all-purpose field in the back. So there was this sense of pride. To me, this is the last touch to this area.
I feel like a lot of kids are super impatient nowadays, going back to my last point. And if you really give baseball a shot, I found so many of my best friends through baseball and some of my funnest moments during high school, so don't give up on it.
People should support this project because they want like consistency in fields. They want to not have to worry about where they're going to be. Like, for example, we play at Grace Rider or other fields where you're not worried about the weather or maybe in like possible injuries due to field conditions. You just want like a place that you can trust and go have some fun.
Right now our focus is on fundraising. We're fundraising through homeplatepride.org. That's our new campaign. If you're interested in donating, you can visit our website. There's ways to donate, and all the donations are really going towards horizontal construction right now. We're trying to get a jump start on our project so that we know the design, we know the cost. The changes that we're proposing really bring safety to the community. Overall, we really see the area as being an opportunity to redesign and enhance. It's a great space that is very popular with the town. It's on obviously the Marshfield High School complex. There's a lot of walkers and runners, track team and cross-country teams come through here, and of course we entertain baseball. So really it's about making this area safe for all the folks that come through and make it an area that they have pride to walk through. You're proud of the way it's designed, proud of the way what it brings to the community, and just again, I think the neighbors, the community, the residents will all find a way to enjoy this area.
Many artists from the South Shore have been donating some of their work to Alice's House over the past few years.
Janet Gibson from Alice's House and some artists talked about the artwork that was donated and the impact it has had on those who visited Alice's House.
So Alice's House basically is a healing house. Our mission is to, we are a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to provide a safe and quiet space for anyone who just needs to catch their breath from some major life challenges.
I was lucky enough to stay at this house before it was rebuilt, and I fell in love with Alice's House, and Hummerock is such a special place. But so when this new house was built and all these beautiful empty walls were calling, I put out a call for artists, and I just kind of tagged all my friends, and they all came running, of course, to willingly donate their work. And I think you find with artists that they will give so readily, and we've done a couple little gatherings here, and we have more to come where the artists come and they get to see and experience Alice's House and see their work, and they know that the people that stay here will love it. And some people have sold their work, others it's just they're happy to have it here.
Becky O'Toole is one of the most prolific artist donators that I've ever met. With every sale, she donates to Dana-Farber. She's a double cancer survivor, so she started painting in recovery, and it's become a spiritual healing journey for her. And so with that attachment, we get a lot of people who ask for donations that are doing good in that way. You know, fundraisers for cancer patients, fundraisers for people who need help in that sort of medical or spiritual way. I knew about Alice's House for a while. My wife grew up in Hummerock, but we just recently did an event with them where I donated some pieces, and Becky donated some pieces. They came here. It's just a cool way to bring the community together. Art has some healing properties. Alice's House is a spiritual healing place. So it just made sense for us to kind of team up and hopefully team up more in the future for that kind of stuff.
Alice's House has been going on since 1997, but in 2012 there was a major catastrophic fire that destroyed Alice's House to ashes. We had to raise money and rebuild the house. And in the process of that, so many community members came together, whether it was in the construction phase, in the designing phase, and then once the house was built, it was in the decorating phase. And many artists had used Alice's House prior for retreats and for workshops and so forth. So they very willingly came forward and said, let us bring some of our artwork to the house. And Sally Dean has been gracious enough to be the one that's organized that for me. And it has been just such a gift to the guests that come to Alice's House. I can't tell you how many people who have actually been a guest here call me while they're here and say, this piece of work, artwork in this room just has touched my soul. And many times the guest will speak to the artist themselves, meet with the artist, purchase the work, and when they do that, the artist generously donates the money to Alice's House and then also replaces the piece of art.
I did this big piece here when you walk in, so that was really fun. It's just one of those paintings that kind of just fell off the brush, and I didn't have to struggle because I knew it was going here, and I think that speaks to a lot of the artists. And I know a few others, people will stay in the house and they'll see something that sparks a memory or just feels a comfort, and they will purchase the work. The artist would replace it. To have original art in this place makes it so special.
It's many, many local artists that have just contributed very kindly and very generously. We've had a couple of events where literally the artists just come with a piece of work under their arm, come down, and Sally and another artist hang all the work. And for the artists themselves to see their work hanging in a home amongst their colleagues was so special to these artists. I never realized how much that they appreciated that too. And when I share stories with them of the reaction their art has on guests, it's just very gratifying for them as well as us. And the stories that the guests tell just bring you to tears. It's amazing how art, it's like music too, how it just touches somebody.
I think that the artwork here, because it is original and so uniquely special to this place, it makes, I feel like the experience for the people staying here more enriching and more, I think they feel like they're special, because seeing original art, especially from local artists, and knowing that they've just willingly donated it, creates even more of that feeling of love and comfort that this house is all about.
Alice's house has become just this sanctuary. And I feel that when people walk through the door of Alice's house, the love that they are embraced with is just palpable. And you can just see people take a breath, people let go of some of their burdens that they carry with them. And what they're embraced with, I feel, is all the love that goes into this house, whether it's by all of our volunteers, our board volunteers, and our volunteers that help us with different things, the art, the music, and all of the guests that have been here before. Because I really feel like anyone who's been a guest at Alice's house leaves a little bit of their loving spirit here. And that is what greets the next guest that walks through the door.
Buried at Marshfield Hills Cemetery, 2 Civil War veterans from the South Shore have a remarkable story.
Marshfield Hills resident Ryan Curley has spent the last couple of months uncovering their story and preparing it for presentation to the public.
I'm a Marshfield native, graduated with both my undergrad and master's degree from Endicott College, and I am unbelievably passionate about American history. I think for me, the exciting piece about history is storytelling. That's what really fires me up, is being able to take these facts off a sheet or a textbook and really bring them to life with stories. And I think that was really instilled in me at a young age from my grandmother. And since then, I've kind of just taken it, made it my own thing, and really just tried to put a new perspective on it in recent months and over the past year. So I am by no means a historian, so I am very much just a guy who likes history. And this is my first project. It came to me by coincidence, and it just seemed like an opportunity I couldn't pass up on. And so I'm trying to apply that kind of business creative skill set to a history project. And I might not have the credibility in the historical space yet, but I think that this fresh perspective is helping me approach it in a way that's going to yield some really great results. So behind us here is the Carver family plot in the Marshfield Hills Cemetery. And essentially in July of 2023, I was walking my dog Rhea, and I just noticed this grave. And on the other side of it, I read the inscription of the 7th Michigan Cavalry. And that piqued my interest. I'm curious as to why men from the 7th Michigan Cavalry are buried here in the Marshfield Hills Cemetery. And I went home and started doing some research, and one rabbit hole after the other, I uncovered the story about 2 brothers who go off to war together, serving under General Custer in the Union Army, with a mission to preserve the Union. And several hundred hours later, we're working on compiling their story into a page-by-page narrative that allows people to almost get like a personal tour of the American Civil War, where these 2 brothers are your guide. My general mission behind the project is to really help educate a younger generation as to the lessons of our past and what we can really pull from it. And this story in particular, I really view it as like the true cost of national division. You know, it's a very like politically charged time in our country's history, and I think it's really easy for us to say this is a really dark period and it's not going to get any better. But a quick look at our nation's history shows us that it's been worse, and we have pulled out of it. What we actually have are 3 protagonists. They're brother-in-laws, and then there's a sister/wife. So our youngest character is Lucius Carver. Lucius's older sister, Susan Carver, is married to Alan Litchfield. So Alan and Lucius are brothers-in-law, but they refer to each other as brothers. The story is that Alan and Susan meet. Alan's originally from Hingham, Susan from Marshfield. They meet, move to Boston, and some point after this and before the Civil War, they moved to Michigan to take advantage of the new lumber and timber trade. And sometime after this, the war breaks out. Alan enlists and is an officer in the 7th Michigan Cavalry. Sometime after this, Lucius, back home in Boston at this time, he's working as a bookkeeper. He's just graduated school, writes to his sister in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that he's getting war fever. He's home, but he's bored, and all the other young men are going out on this great adventure, and he wants in. And so Lucius enlists, Alan's able to pull some strings, get him into the 7th Michigan Cavalry, and they're serving there together. And they very quickly realize that this false narrative of adventure and fun, this fellowship, is not at all what the reality is. And in March, late February, early March of 1864, there's this special mission where they're gonna capture the Confederate capital of Richmond. They're gonna free prisoners, they're gonna burn down the city, and they're going to kill the Confederate President Jefferson Davis. But nothing goes according to plan. There's a regiment coming in from the city north, a regiment coming south. The regiment coming in from the north needs to cross the James River. It's flooded, they can't get in. The regiment coming in from the south, which Lucius and Alan are with, quickly end up surrounded, and Alan turns to Lucius and tells him, "You need to go find the general and tell him I can hold this position, but for not much longer." And unfortunately, at this moment, Lucius and Alan are going to be separated, and Lucius rides off to find the general, and by the time he returns, he's found that Alan and all his men have been captured. And Alan's going to spend the rest of the war in some pretty terrible Confederate prison camps, barely survive, and not having any contact with the family until the very end of the war. And so after this, Lucius is promoted in his older brother's absence up to the rank of lieutenant. So on the other piece of this story is we have Lucius, we have Alan, and then we have Susan, who's very much a protagonist of this story, Susan Litchfield Carver. She provides us a very unique perspective on what life was like at home for a woman during the Civil War. She's raising their son Lawrence by herself, and she's supportive of the war effort, but admittedly, there are a lot of difficulties and complexities that come with your brother and your husband being gone, and she has to navigate those pretty much by herself. And this is all shared with us through her letters, both to the front lines, writing to her husband and her brother, but also she writes to her other sisters and shares kind of this unfiltered view. So Lucius and Alan are both buried here. Alan's originally from Hingham, Lucius and Susan originally from Marshfield, but in the end, the story starts and ends in Marshfield, with the family plot being here in the Marshfield Hills Cemetery. Upon finding the grave and doing that initial research, the best way I can describe it is just historical rabbit holes. And it was actually my plan to just do a little post about it on Veterans Day and just be like, hey, there's so much history around us, look what I found. And I was sitting with a friend in the library at Endicott College, and I just searched it up to try and show him the engraving, and I ended up finding a little more. And so I took that information and just kept searching, and it was one thing led to the next, and pretty soon I had uncovered that Alan had several hundred letters stored in the University of Michigan Library, the Clements. I called them up after finding a description of these letters in a catalog, asking if I could see digital copies, and they informed me that they didn't have any. So what I did was I hired a graduate student, and he went in and photographed these hundreds of letters for me, and now for the first time we had digital copies of Alan's letters. In terms of next steps, I've taken upon myself to begin compiling this story. It'll be right there in one place for the first time. And the goal for that is to share it with as many people as possible. I'm just incredibly thankful for the support I've gotten. I'm definitely the one leading this project, but I'm only able to do it because I have the support of all the people around me, and they have all my thanks and love for that. Hopefully we can share it with more and more and get as many people on board as we can.
This concludes this edition of Beyond Ocean and Maine. Tune in next time. I'm Robert Goitis.
And I'm Shayla Tran.
Thank you very much for watching.